We are young, we are students, and we are mad. Our generation is a progressive generation, constantly complaining about this patriarchal and capitalist system. We've never been as concerned by socio-economic problems as before. Yet, nothing really changes. Of course, progress is made, but always within the same system. We are trying to improve the living conditions of the minorities, but within a system that wasn't made for them. The best would be to change everything, to wipe this capitalism off the map. But it's impossible, isn't it? It is especially impossible when you're a young student in the Western world like me. I have always wanted to change things, have an impact. I change my way of consuming, of understanding the world, and it brings nothing to the world. Things remain as they are. And the worst part in all this is that I am probably as capitalist as the next guy who doesn't give a shit about capitalism or socio-economic problems like me. Hi, my name is Gloria. This is my first video in this format. This is just a little essay with the researches I made. I'm not a professional, I'm not a professor. I'm just here to share what I learned. Disclaimer, I am French. I wanted to apologize for that and apologize for my accent. My English isn't perfect, so I make mistakes here and there. If you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe because it really means a lot to me. Thank you! Is it impossible for us, young rebels, to escape the good old capitalism? Short answer, yes. But if I didn't say yes and you didn't say yes, there would have been a little more chances that the answer would have been no. In this essay, we will therefore try to provide some explanations to this idea with philosophical, sociological, and historical tools. So let's get started. Postmodernism or I don't careism. Je m'en foutisme. In our postmodern society, the subject tries to define themselves by rejecting the great narratives of the history, the great explanations that give us a view of history altogether, such as Marxism, who explain history as a constant antagonism between two classes. The postmodern subject therefore tries to focus on themselves and their interpretation of the world. When the subject tries to find their identity, they will, according to philosopher Slavoj Žižek, do so through the capitalist system. They will try to have an identity by defining their clothing style, their cultural taste, supplies. For example, there is sort of a trend, I don't know, on Pinterest where you choose to have an aesthetic. So you can be tomato girl, have the tomato girl aesthetic, Star Wars girl aesthetic, Frank Ocean aesthetic, like whatever. And to be the tomato girl, you gotta have this type of clothes, this type of jewelry, of books, of shoes, of makeup. Basically, to be a tomato girl, you gotta be the tomato girl type of consumer, the Frank Ocean type of consumer. And even I find myself counting on material objects to define who I am. In a week I will move in a studio, so my preoccupations are how would I decorate the studio so that people know it's me? How would I put my identity into the studio and how the studio will reflect my identity? But I'm supposed to be an anti-capitalist. I read the Communist Manifesto. Why am I falling always and always into the trap? Even though I reject the ideology, it's like I'm conditioned to love it. After World War II, when the capitalist, democratic, liberal system as we know it today was established, anything that was politically extreme was associated with violence and therefore it was not a good look on you. Oh, you're a far leftist. Oh my god, no. You're communist. No, that's bad. Oh, you're fascist. No, you're communist. No, that's bad. It was not a good look on you. The best for you was to think in accordance to the norm that was being established. So we adopted a cynicism, a lack of faith, that prevented us from having hope in other systems than the capitalist system. But as time went on, we realized that capitalism wasn't that good either. But we still kept in mind that an alternative solution would be impossible to have. Slavoj Žižek then updates Marx saying, quote, "They don't know it, but they're doing it." with, quote, they know they're doing it, but they're still doing it. We may understand the extent of the damage caused by capitalism because we are unable to find an alternative solution to capitalism in our imagination. We do not try to replace capitalism. But capitalism is very much so replaceable. It only has been around for 200 years, and we as a human society can organize ourselves in another way, but we are conditioned to deny this idea. As mentioned previously, we are now very individualistic beings faced with dilemmas of boycott, should I buy this or not, of support, should I post this on my Instagram story even though I find myself sometimes doing the very things I call people out for. We are all alone in front of our screens. And one thought constantly comes: if I do this action or not, it will not change anything. Why should I change when my action will absolutely change anything? When I really need to buy this, I really need to purchase this for my good. Every time we contribute to the system against our will, it is because we have decided to focus on ourselves, not to give the attention to people who are in need of our attention. We are losing our sense of community because we are telling ourselves, what is my weight compared to those of 8 other billion people? Understand the enemy to crush the enemy. You gotta know the bit to hate the bit. Let's be more optimistic this time. Let's say that we are really committed and really want to change things. I certainly want to become a revolutionary, to shake up the system by shaking up people's system of thought. However, to have some form of credibility, to achieve a certain result, I cannot be the only one jumping out of the train. I must learn how the system I am opposing works. I must reach these positions that are considered important to the eyes of capitalism. In his debate with Michel Foucault, Noam Chomsky was asked whether his involvement at the MIT school reinforcing capitalist ideologies will not be against his morals, to which he answered, there are people who argue, and I have never understood the logic of this, that a radical ought to dissociate himself from all oppressive institutions. The logic of that argument is that Karl Marx shouldn't have studied in the British Museum, which, if anything, was the symbol of the most vicious imperialism of the world. But I think Karl Marx was quite right in studying in the British Museum. He was right in using the resources and in fact the liberal values of the civilization he was trying to overcome against it. It is not by rejecting capitalism that we are going to have an echo and importance in our messages. It is not by rejecting consumerist and property ideas and by being homeless that we will change anything. It is not by rejecting institutions like school that we will be able to gain as much knowledge. It is not by rejecting the social construct that is money that we will succeed in surviving. Simple as that. So we must adopt the system against our will, use it even if we are ideologically against it. At the end of the day, I'm just a girl. Let's continue in this hopeful momentum and let's acquire all the necessary political tools to make a change. One of the main ideas that capitalism tries to sell is its meritocratic principle. The if you want, you can. Si tu veux, tu peux. Capitalism would be the best way for you to achieve social ascension like Elon Musk, for example. But behind all this hides the famous social determinism. Social determinism is believing that our social trajectory and our place in the society are predetermined by factors such as our parents' profession or the place where we grew up. So if you are a middle-class student and if mommy and daddy aren't as rich as Elon's parents, your chances of social ascension will not be as great as promised. The problem is that people most affected by capitalism are those who have less chances of social ascension, because the richer you are, the more resources you have. You can go into the best school, have better social, economic, psychological conditions. Capitalism is built so that people at the top stay at the top and people at the bottom stay at the bottom. And the people at the top are benefiting from capitalism and having so much more political and economical control And these people have no interest in changing a system that benefits them every day. Elon Musk will now rise up against capitalism because it made him rich. So the people at the bottom, even if they're aware of their condition, because we are aware that we are being exploited, have no choice but to continue to work within the system. If you still have hope of progress, if you still want to reach these high positions, you gotta work harder, be more capitalist than ever. You must save time, save money, and you become Gregor Samsa, the protagonist of Kafka's novel The Metamorphosis. But when we understand that Samsa was overwhelmed by the quantity of work, the monotonous routine, we worry about our conditions. Basically, I'm just a girl who wants to emancipate herself from the system of which she is a victim. But to achieve this emancipation, she must strengthen the functioning of the very system. I want to earn more money to pay for my scholarship. I must then become an employee at a relatively easy but exhausting job. I want to have more time to study. I must equip myself with technologies that guarantee a better organization of my time, so all my efforts are concentrated in my way of producing and consuming. I will buy a better phone, a better car, to have more time to work, to have more time to study, to gain more knowledge, to work, but in better conditions. You are not the only revolutionary. What capitalism has established in order to work more efficiently is the strengthening of the individual as a term. Precisely, individualism comes with the first liberal and property theories by Locke and Tocqueville. I need my individual freedom. This thing belongs to me. And capitalism feeds on this ideology. This means that we are gradually evolving into a society that targets the individual, not the people. We are growing up in a society where our individualization has become essential. To be a student in 2024 means to move from your household, to have your own studio or apartment, to have your freedom and independence. Whereas to 50 or 30 years ago, I don't know the exact time, I wasn't there. If you were a student, you will still live in a house with your parents, and they didn't expect you to live until your marriage. This notion of freedom and liberty has its strengths and weaknesses, but I'm kind of a mood downer, so let's focus on the weaknesses. As I said earlier, where we are faced with capitalist injustice, even if we want to help, we are weakened by our individuality. Just me, how can I change things? The postmodern subject tries to give themselves meaning because we are in a world where there are too many meanings. This is decentralization. Everything can be interpreted in different ways. There is no authority or religion that dictates a single way of life. As a result, the subject have more and more difficulty relating with one community that they can attach themselves to. There are so many communities that fit them, so many specificities. Thus, the individual has less of this class consciousness, less of the solidarity toward their fellow human, because everyone is so unique and different. And I think if we focus on this fundamental problem, things can change. We must recreate strong links between us. We must find this link that unites us because we really need it. We can witness it in recent events that changes in our society have only happened when we got on the same page with individuals who shared our values and ideals. In fact, thanks to the platform put in place by capitalism, we have so much more ways to link with the other. But because capitalism clings to our individualism, we remain isolated. For the philosopher Hartmut Rosa, our society has accelerated because of capitalism again on 3 points: our movement and communication, our social organization, and our pace of life. This acceleration causes an alienation of ourselves from others. Because I have the possibility to move faster, I do not stay long in one place. Because I have lots of Instagram subscribers, I do not talk with each and every one of them. Because I lack time, I do not have time to create an in-depth relationship with someone. For my part, I know a lot of people. I have my small share of Instagram followers on a public and private account, but I do not talk and I do not discuss societal problem with each and every one of them because I don't really know them, all of them. I just follow them on Instagram. And according to Rosa, the promise of capitalism is that everything can be within our reach, everything can be accessible and controllable. And this need to control everything prevents us from living what he calls experiences of resonance, expérience de résonance. So he says, quote, "On the human level, this means that we are not in an attitude of control, domination and purchase, but in an attitude of listening and response. We must therefore learn back how to create links by separating ourselves from the capitalist functioning." Last part, gather round, gather round. We are young rebels, yet we fall every day, every hour, every second under the cogs of capitalism. But even if we are stuck into a loop where our emancipation generates a more active participation in the system, we are determined to change things. We understood that what weakens capitalism is the power of friendship, and it understood it. So we are not given these fake social parasocial relationships in an attitude of control and domination. By DMing someone, you can always pretend, ignore the person, or answer for someone else. We want to change things. We cannot do it alone. We can gather on social networks, create large movements, but we will always do it according to the rules of the platform. I can always join this or that social movement on social media, but algorithm will always prefer silly goofy cats and brain rot than feminist or LGBTQ plus messages. Let's get out of our rooms, talk to each other, and gather outside without being constrained by the system. And we will find a meaning, a connection that is stronger because it's physical. We realize that a viral AI post defending Palestine or a black square denouncing police brutality on black people will not be as meaningful as gathering of people in the streets. You get to meet someone, exchange for real. I am not saying that we should completely abandon social medias because they are really useful. In fact, you wouldn't have seen my video without them. But we must readopt a political and activist commitment that requires a real human contact, that requires a real investment. So join a club, join an association, read books and discuss them, watch movies and discuss them. Learn about philosophy, the politics, the economy, and discuss about what you've learned. Instagram stories are good for a sec. Literally, we post and then move on. But getting your ass up and exchanging and giving, these are the things that make us aware of our actions, that make us aware of the involvement of others in the cause. We are not alone in front of our screens, questioning our usefulness and our legitimacy. We are now surrounded and full of hope. So that's it. I'm quite finished. I hope you loved my yapping about capitalism. Tell me in the comments what you've thought about my video so I can learn from it and maybe make more. I don't know. See you!